everybody. Welcome to our Moving Market podcast. Today is the 8th of February. It is Thursday. We have just had the U.S. market close now for about an hour and a half. Getting everything ready for this podcast, getting some trade adjustments sent out to the Safe Option Strategies members. Glad to have you here. We're going to talk a little bit about what happened today in the market. Not like yesterday, there's not a whole lot to talk about. It's kind of a slow news day. One sort of big development late in the day that's a little more political, but I'm going to talk about how it could possibly affect markets. I don't think it will right away, but certainly could have an effect on the markets. And then we'll talk a little bit about how I think the week is going to end. Today went pretty much according to script. If you listened to yesterday's podcast, the way the things shook out today was not much different than I thought they would. That's not a pat on my back to say that I have this ability to accurately predict what the market is going to do, but it kind of made sense. It was just kind of logical. So no specific genius on my part, but things played out kind of the way we thought they would. Make sure if you enjoy this podcast, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you give us a like and take a minute to check out the website at sostrades.com. We're on a torrid pace already this year with the trades we're sending out to our members, making a couple of collar trade adjustments. We're up nicely in several of our collar trades. We're really off to a good start. And more than anything, you trade the methods that we teach at Safe Option Strategies. You do not lose sleep at night. You have a lot of peace of mind. That you're in very protected, very safe, relatively speaking, very safe position. So make sure you check us out. Make sure at the very least that you like the YouTube channel or subscribe to the YouTube channel. Give us a like or send us a comment or ask us a question, and we'll do our best to address those. Thanks. Enjoy today's presentation. All right. So pretty decent day in the market today. Not a huge amount of movement on the Dow or the S&P. The NASDAQ had a nice little rally. 1/4 of a percentage point is not a bad thing. Imagine what that would be if you went through an entire calendar year getting 1/4 of a percent up every single day on any one of these indexes. You would be loving life. The Russell 2000, which we don't follow real closely, it's always here on this screen when we're looking at our CNBC website. The Russell 2000 had a great day, up 1.5%, and that's means it was a good day for small businesses that are listed on the exchanges. The Dow was up a lot today on Disney and the phenomenal earnings that they had. Look, I'm not the same kind of fan of Disney that I was years ago. I've been pretty frustrated with some of the woke politics and some of the stuff they're doing, but there's no denying Disney posted some fantastic numbers, and their share price got rewarded as a result of that today. Prior to today's movement up, they're giving back a little tiny bit after hours. That's not a big deal. That's some profit taking for tomorrow. But prior to this earnings report and this $11 move to the upside today, $11.50 almost move to the upside today, if you have bought shares of Disney 15 years ago, 10 years ago, and still own Disney today, you'd be sitting at exactly almost the same price. Disney has really now, there were times when they were much higher than that, but Disney has really been an underperforming stock for a number of years now, and I blame it almost entirely. I'm gonna stretch this out to, I'll show you a 10-year chart on Disney, and you can see if we pop this chart out so we can draw it a little bit here. 15 years might have been wrong, but if you had bought stock in Disney 9.5, 10 years ago and held that stock up until yesterday, you had some big movements to the upside during that time, but also some big major sell-off during that time. I believe that this move right here was a direct 100% result of the woke politics and Bob Chapek and the disaster that he was as a CEO when Bob Iger stepped down. And Disney may have had a really good quarter and posted some really good numbers. And I'm not sad that I'm not real enamored with the company anymore. I'm not real sad that they're up or feel like that's a bad thing. I don't wish other people to not make money because they're invested in Disney. But they've got some work still to do. They might have posted some good numbers this quarter, but I think over the next 2 or 3 quarters, I think you're going to see more of this kind of stuff with Disney, where in maybe a 10% or so range, you're bouncing around a little bit. If I want to put another trend line on here, I think somewhere up in the neighborhood, I think that's a pretty solid resistance line, somewhere in that 115 range. And I think it might be for a little while. I think you might see Disney trade maybe between 95 and maybe 94, 93 and 115. And it wouldn't shock me at all to see them spend 6 months to a year stuck in that range. Now, if they follow up this most recent quarter with another really good quarter, I'll be dead flat wrong on that. They'll rebound and continue to move up, and Disney might possibly convince me sometime in the next quarter or so that Bob Iger is making the kind of changes that I would like to see in that company. And to me, they might become another buy opportunity. I hate being in a spot where I don't love Disney because I've got some phenomenal family memories from Disney. Took my kids there as they were growing up. Absolutely loved the parks. We've been on a Disney cruise. I made some good money for a while on Disney stock, but I do not like any corporation, liberal or conservative, that over involves themselves in politics. I want corporate America to stay the hell out of politics, period. End of story. I don't want big corporations donating money to candidates on either side of the aisle. I don't want corporations alienating half of their audience because of their idiotic politics. And again, it's on both sides of the aisle. I want corporate America to put out a good service or a good product and have politics have nothing to do with it at all. But I think we live in a world where it's unlikely that is ever going to happen again. So if that ends up being the case, then be smart and tamp down your politics. For goodness sake, just quit getting overly liberal or overly conservative in what you do. Look at what Bud Light has gone through and the effort they're making to change right now. And look, I got nothing against the company. They employ a lot of American employees, and I don't care if I'm labeled as biased because I'm an American. It's no offense to any of our friends that are in other countries, but what Bud Light did with the whole Dylan Mulvaney thing. You're appealing to a percentage of this country that makes up probably less than 1%, plus the other 30% of hypocritical virtue signalers that think they look noble and think they look virtuous in supporting causes that they don't really believe in at their core, or don't really support or go along with. But they think if I appear that I support this, and if I look like I support this, then that makes me a more noble person. Doesn't it? Makes you a fool and a hypocrite. And so, Bud Light, I think, hopefully learned a valuable lesson in what they did, and hopefully they can hire back some of the people that lost their jobs, because what a massive what a massive hit their stock took, and what a massive hit their corporate revenues and corporate profits went. They lost 30% of their market share because of the idiocy of a small handful of people. And fortunately, the leader of that advertising campaign with Dylan Mulvaney um, has been fired and is gone. But I'll tell you, there are still a bunch of woke morons at Disney that are still calling shots there and still trying to get things into their movies that have no business being in their movies. And if Bob Iger's not going to take advice from me, the guy makes more money in a day probably than what I make in a year, and I feel pretty good. I feel like I'm doing all right. But he's not going to listen to me. But if someone at Disney who knows Bob Iger ever listens to this podcast and listens to me, I hope they encourage him to keep getting rid of the idiots that are there in middle and upper management that are destroying this company. Good for Disney. They had a great earnings report. They had great numbers. They guided well. They deserve the move up they had in the market today. And I hope the stock continues to go up. I hope every investor in Disney, I hope, does well and recovers some of the losses they've had. But Bob Iger's got a lot more house cleaning to do, and I hope he's intent on doing it. I know personally his politics are quite liberal. He hasn't really made a secret of that. But I don't think you get to that kind of a position without at heart being a capitalist and a free market capitalist, and get rid of the freaking politics in your company, and just continue to put out good content that doesn't try to push one political agenda or the other. And for for the people at Disney who feel like anything other than their wild, crazy, hardcore left, damn near communist agenda, for people who feel like anything other than that is a radical agenda, you need to be the first to lose your jobs. You need to be the first on the unemployment line. And I hope there's no golden parachute for you on the way out. I hope you get canned, and I hope you stay unemployed for a long time. And I know that's really cynical of me, and I know that's really kind of vindictive towards people I don't know, but those people are screwing up what used to be a very beloved, very good company that I hope can get back there at some day. Okay, I'm going to get off that rant on Disney now. The rest of what went on to the market in the markets today is pretty much the script that I outlined yesterday or the day before. There's not a lot of news driving stocks right now. There is one news story that really bothered me. This news broke just about the time the market was closing. The special counsel that was looking into Joe Biden's handling of classified documents found that he had willfully kept the materials, but he's too old, too stupid, and too inept to try to indict on it right now. I mean, that's my take on what this report said. Is he's a foolish old man with most of his memory gone and doesn't really have a clue what's going on now. So it would be kind of cruel to indict him and actually, prosecute him for the crime he committed, which was willfully keeping classified information as a member of the Senate. That is straight up illegal. Look, we could argue, and there may be merit to both sides of the argument as to whether or not Donald Trump should have kept classified documents when he left the Oval Office and left the presidency. I am of the opinion that because he was president, he has the ability to take any documents he wants, classified or not, because as president, you can simply declassify those documents. So I think, and that's my opinion. I'm not going to suggest for a minute that the other side of that argument doesn't have some validity in him. He probably shouldn't have. I'm not going to argue that. He probably shouldn't have. But you could have a legitimate debate about whether or not what he did was illegal. There is no question at all for any rational human being. There is no question that what Joe Biden did was illegal, was straight up illegal. And whether he's got Alzheimer's right now today or not, whether he has any memory today or any mental capacity to recognize that what he did was illegal, he had it all when he committed the illegal act, and he should be in jail right now. And I'm ticked off because I detest this double standard. I detest that one political party gets a free pass. Hillary Clinton destroyed evidence, which is a federal law. She violated it. She obstructed justice, and nothing happened except she lost a presidency that she thought she was entitled to. Joe Biden absolutely unequivocally, no question about it, broke the law. Nothing will happen to him at all. Donald Trump probably did something stupid and something he shouldn't have done. It is debatable whether he broke the law, but he is having the book thrown at him by political prosecutors and political judges and political district attorneys. And I hate the two-tiered system of justice. So a soapbox on Disney, soapbox on Joe Biden. But the market, sorry, I didn't intend to go off like that. The markets did pretty much what I thought they would do. They were bullish because there's a lack of news that is going to drive things bearish. How's that for a more genteel note to finish on today? I got riled up today, and I don't always do that. If nothing else, you might disagree with everything I'm saying, but maybe you get a little entertainment value out of it. And if I can at least do that for you and put a smile on your face for that reason, I'm glad to do so. The fact of the matter is, folks, there's nothing in the immediate future that is probably going to change the markets being a little more bullish than bearish. I don't think you're going to see any breaking news tomorrow that would derail things. Be some profit taking tomorrow. I'm not suggesting that I have some special insight that tomorrow's going to be another bullish day, but today played out pretty much the way I expected it to. And I think tomorrow you'll probably have more of the same. Next week is a little bit different. There are some economic reports coming out. I believe we get CPI and PPI next week for our January numbers. Those are going to be watched very closely, and those both have the ability to turn this market sour if they both come in hotter than expected. And there is some legitimate fear and some legitimate concern that inflation might poke its head up again a little bit. The last two CPI and PPI reports have come in pretty flat, and that's a reversal from that trend where things were going down and things were looking better. So, don't be shocked if it kind of rears its head up again a little bit. And don't be shocked if the market sees that as a bad sign and one more nail in the coffin of the idea of multiple rate cuts before the end of this year. I'm still suspect that we'll get any rate cuts prior to summertime, and maybe not until those last few Fed meetings towards the end of the year. I don't know that May is a foregone conclusion. A lot of people think it is. March is pretty much off the table now, and that's what caused the markets to wiggle a little bit last week. But the notion that May is still a foregone conclusion that there will be a rate cut, I'm not buying it. And if there's just a little bit of a miss to the upside on the CPI or PPI numbers next week, it's going to cause some concern. So we'll be watching that really closely next week. But for now, I'm going to wrap up today. We'll do a weekly wrap up tomorrow, and then hopefully you have a great Thursday night and a great Friday. Thanks, everyone.